Alright guys, TacticalRab and today, hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So far, a huge day in the gaming world yesterday with all the development on the DrDisrespect saga, of course, very close really to the competitive Call of Duty scene over the last several years, and as a result, lots of reaction was coming through, especially from Nadeshot, as we'll dive into here over the coming minutes, but also talk going into Major 4 in Burbank this coming weekend, what Pred and OpTic especially need to change if they actually want to try and win. Very much enjoy to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. Here's Envoy, Scrappy and the boys, heading out of course to Burbank. Subliners are already there, so the travel day was effectively yesterday for the majority of teams. We'll see slightly more on that later on today. Day of scrims today on the Wednesday, and then tomorrow Thursday the matches officially get underway. No fans, unfortunately. It is what it is, but you know, TJ, Dashy, etc, they're all there in Burbank. I'm sure the weather is lovely, getting ready for, well, what's going to be a very interesting weekend. No fans, how is that going to change? Which teams are going to do well, which teams are not going to do so well? The World Championship qualification is absolutely on the line. Before we get to that though, we've got to talk about this doc stuff, because definitely the story of the day, really just in culture in general, certainly in the gaming space yesterday, was the story on DrDisrespect. Now this guy's always been a controversial character for years. The TwitchCon stuff that happened back in, like, was it not 2017 he cheated on his wife or something like that? Anyway, I kind of forget all the stories. And I think it turned out to be the same TwitchCon where beforehand it turns out he was talking to a minor in Twitch whispers, and there's been so much drama about this obviously, because he was banned off Twitch like 4 years ago. Slasher, so Rod Breslau, not the COD player Slasher, reveals that, like, hey, I kind of know what's happened here, but I don't feel comfortable talking about it. And it seems like 4 years down the line, maybe the NDAs have come to a close or whatever it is, but also from Twitch's side, it's like they have to be a bit careful with this stuff because, you know, these are like private whisper messages. Should they be reading those? Apparently, there's like other people that have been, you know, coming up with similar stuff. Like, apparently it's not just Doc. So yeah, very concerning, obviously, and the whole situation is kind of wild. And I just wanted to mention this tweet because, you know, I can obviously comment on the story. I know you guys are familiar with it at this point because it's been talked about everywhere, but basically there's more to come apparently. The second part of this story hasn't dropped yet. There's actually 3 parts to the story. Apparently it gets worse, so it doesn't seem like the DrDisrespect stuff is coming to a close anytime soon. And obviously he puts out this statement apologizing to the community, and obviously it goes on and on. You guys have probably seen it talked about elsewhere. I read through it. If you guys want to just pause, I can obviously go through it here. But you know, initially it said he was, you know, whispering an individual minor, and obviously there's been talk of, you know, sexually inappropriate messages that way, which, you know, I just can't believe how often this stuff seems to happen. And yeah, what is wrong with these people? I just don't get it. But anyway, individual minor was then edited out, so it didn't say minor, and then it's back in there again. So he's at an absolute disaster class, basically. Obviously, Nick Merckx, who's very close to DrDisrespect, was obviously talking about the situation as stories and kind of rumors were developing over the last few days. He obviously has to come up with the statements. Tim the Tapman and elsewhere, they were talking about it as well. It's just interesting, isn't it? Because Doc was actually first known about, I would say, from the competitive COD scene because he was a designer, or at least he was working with Sledgehammer Games back on Advanced Warfare. I think there might be 7 or so maps back in Advanced Warfare that have Doc's, you know, signature on it to some degree. Certainly Solar was well known as being, you know, the map that effectively that he designed. Of course, very good map, but in hindsight, maybe people will feel differently. And even CDL Hater Central, the account that roasts all the COD pros when they've had a bad day, is, you know, is cooking him right about here. So obviously there was reaction because, like, I don't expect many people from the competitive COD scene to say something publicly, and I don't necessarily think they need to. I think, you know, the feeling is obvious and doesn't necessarily need to be said. And I feel like, you know, many of the members of the scene who have been close with Doc or have worked with him or whatever will, you know, distance themselves privately and obviously aren't going to be working with him again on content, I don't imagine, at least, into the future. But Nadeshot, of course, goes live. He talks about it. So just wanted to share what Nate had to say here because, of course, you know, since the recent birth of his daughter, it obviously maybe cuts a bit closer to home.
Have you seen the doctor tweet? I have, man. I have. Obviously, a lot of people have been tweeting at me. You know me. You guys know me for a long time. Obviously, I have a relationship with Doc. Played golf a lot the last year. Come on, man. I mean, it's pretty much common sense how I feel about that. I've got a daughter now. It's like I got people calling me out in my Twitter mentions like, yo, why don't you got your pitchfork out? Why aren't you, you know, if you don't come out right now and say how much you don't like this guy anymore, you're a piece of shit. I'm like, dude, I really don't want to get into it. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to understand that I don't support talking to minors.
And even Sam Phoenix as well here, coach of the Las Vegas Legion, talking about it as well. So big story, and as I say, based on the rumours that we're hearing today, it ain't going away anytime soon, so there might be further reaction to it. But let's talk about some actual competitive Call of Duty stuff. There's a tournament this weekend. This is what we've put together as the slice of the pie chart chances of winning the actual tournament. So FaZe they're not the number one seed FaZe, and they play the hardest first round game possible theoretically against New York. They are favoured to win that, and therefore they are considered to have roughly a 30% chance to win the entire tournament based on the strength of their schedule, or the brackets that they will have, based on the seeding, based on just the strength of their team lately compared to their opposition. Toronto, 35%. So they're looking in, a pretty good spot. They are the tournament favourites technically going in, although, usually FaZe are basically always considered the favourites, basically regardless of the circumstances. New York are in third place here, and then OpTic with only 8% chance, which I think is probably about right, really. You might say it should be higher, but starting in losers round 1, it's an incredibly tall ask to make it all the way through the losers bracket to actually win the entire thing. So I think that's probably about correct, really. Similar to New York, who are starting in winners, but of course they play FaZe in the first rounds. Then we've got, Miami at 5%. They have a nice run, really, because they play Thieves round 1, and then they'll play, potentially Toronto after that. So Miami could make a dark horse run. Surge, Thieves, Vegas. Of course, other teams starting in the winners bracket, and the teams that start in losers that aren't called OpTic Texas basically have no chance. And even Los Angeles Guerrillas, who do start in winners, are not considered to have any chance either. They play Toronto in the first round. But Ravens, Minnesota, Boston have literally 0% according to the modelling or whatever that has been done. But the reality is it doesn't matter so much for Ravens, Minnesota, Guerrillas even, that they can't win the event, or at least their chances are like 1 in 1,000, if not worse, to win the entire event. What matters is they've got to get enough points to qualify for the World Championship. What matters for Ravens is they start in losers round 1, they'll play probably the Los Angeles Guerrillas. If they win that, they play the winner of OpTic, Miami, or Thieves. So, and Ravens probably need to win both of those series to qualify. They probably need top 6 Ravens to make it to the World Championship. And look, maybe in front of their home crowd in Charlotte, where the event was meant to be, it would actually worked out in their favour, but it obviously did not. But I wanted to mention a few things on that OpTic team, right? Because they're coming in as a 4th favourites to the event. Now, they're starting in losers round 1. It's going to be a massively tall order for them to win the entire thing, or even to make a deep run in the tourney, especially the way they've played over the last couple of weekends. Will the kind of fake LAN, okay, it's LAN, but it's no fans or whatever, will it help them? Will it hurt them? I'm not sure it will be massively a benefit, but then again, the OpTic team, let's say last year's event, when it was, this kind of studio setup, it was Thieves versus OpTic in the grand finals, and that final therefore included Drazah, Kenny, Dashy, Envoy, lots of the players that are still on the top teams as of today. But the flank the other day was talking about Pred, especially in his playstyle. Of course, it's been a big talking point of last weekend's. Certain moments where Pred did not seem to be playing with the confidence that he sometimes can, and when he's not playing in that style, all of a sudden the team seems to be struggling.
And you watch some of the plays, especially aBeZy has made the split, where I feel like he has reverted to the style where he's too out of the action, too hard playing kills in off lanes when he should be pushing pressure and playing off a Shotzzy, who I see making a lot of plays on the map.
Especially if you're an OpTic fan, they want them to three-peat, you know what I mean? Pred is the one that's the most prone to doing this on the team. Like, he did it early on this season. We saw how that went. And like Ben said, I actually rarely for once agree with Ben. He's reverting back to it. I said I was great.
I mean, this is just a complete regression, bro. Like, they won an event, 4 weeks ago, a month ago, and every single fundamental thing that I think we were praising them for, and the way that they were playing in respawn, S&D is a whole different thing, but I think their respawn is just nowhere near the muscle memory that they kind of had when it comes to just situational plays and tendencies and moments. Like, I think that aBeZy is a focal point of the team, because when you watch them play, when they are not as confident, or when their systems or their concepts aren't 100% on, you can see it in aBeZy's gameplay specifically, and I think it reflects upon the whole team, because he reverts to what Ben said, to this like low engagement, low damage, slow play style, and then when the team is firing and he is playing well and they're confident in what they're doing, he's sprinting it down. And I think when it's like genuinely, I don't even know like a mood ring. Like when AG is playing like this, you can tell the team is not where it needs to be because he's doing the shit like Tom when we were yelling today in the control when he was laying down like top yellow, right?
Bro, Ken is pissed. Me and Sam, this is why. And this is why I don't look at it. I'm not looking at it on the micro level, okay, of like S&D. They can't win an S&D because I think the main issue here is they won the major. They looked great on Sunday, right? They start losing these online matches. Me and Sam have teamed with Ken. We know Ken will tweak because we've seen, well, Shotzzy Shotzzy don't give a fuck about nothing. You know, he's like, he just does his thing.
Yeah.
But Pred and Dashy, I've seen a couple tweets about online.
Yes, and Virginia.
I've seen Kenny's tweets are like, everything we talk about, we're not doing it. Because what I think is happening, and this happens to, we've all been there. Well, not Ben, but me, Chris, Sam, Tom. You win an event, you go back online, you start thinking everything's online. That's the reason why you're losing. That guy's not rotating online. You know what I mean? Like he's not throwing that stun at the event. And I think Ken's tweaking about that because they're literally blaming it online. Like that's what it comes off as to me. And I don't think it has anything to do with S&D. They just need to like relock in. They need to relock in and like actually go hard.
This especially was the clip, of course, that the guys were talking about where Pred is up here on the Karachi and he has the opportunity to make some sort of play. He's got to make a decision here. Does he go for the flank, which is probably not the right play, but it is at least a play, or wrap back with his team and hit the front? Instead, he does basically nothing, even though they're in the perfect position here, OpTic. They're up 2-1 in the map, they're up on lives, but Pred does nothing and eventually dies. Now, I will say the numbers don't necessarily play out the same picture as the eye test precisely, because as Pred said after that, unacceptable performance from me, haven't been playing like myself, very disappointing. And look, he could have tweeted out, all right, I'm going to sort it out for the major. He didn't. He's going to work on that, of course, behind the scenes privately. I will say the numbers don't necessarily play this out as bad as you might expect. These are the numbers for OpTic during Major 3, the event which they won. Pred had a 1.12 overall, 84 Slayer rating. Shotzzy was the highest on the team with an 86, 87 Slayer rating. In hardpoint, for example, that was 24 kills per 10 for Pred, 25 kills per 10 for Shotzzy. Damage was slightly lower than Shotzzy, engagement slightly lower than Shotzzy, but not too dissimilar really. So, we're talking about this fast-paced play style from Pred, but actually it was Kenny during Major 3 who had higher engagements per 10 than Pred had. And that's one of the talking points actually that I would look at, is that yes, I think for Pred you see the struggles more clearly, but actually, in terms of numbers, it's Kenny that has regressed the most stage to stage. Now, look, it is online. Kenny's never been that good online, and maybe there's a feeling that, okay, if Kenny comes back onto LAN and starts playing well again, that might be the real difference maker. But Search and Destroy was the big one, really. Pred last stage had a 1.06 in Search and a 0.74 kills per round. But as Octane says, yes, it's about the Search, but it's not so much about the Search. Like, it's clearly the respawn that's also a problem here in Major 4. Some of the maps they've lost to Minnesota, some of the maps they've lost to Boston, for example, but nonetheless, Major 4 has been bad. I mean, Pred this stage has 0.57 kills per round, 0.72 KD overall, which is, the worst on the team, one of the worst in the entire league. But in hardpoint and in control, the numbers are actually kind of similar in terms of the ratio. Pred, 23 per 10, Shotzzy, 24 per 10. Kills per 10 is, 46, 48. So, is Pred playing that much slower than he was, at least with respect to his teammates, than he was in Major 3? I mean, if we just compare the hardpoint numbers, okay, this is even Major 2, and, you see a similar trends. Like, yes, Pred is slightly slower than Shotzzy, but it's not necessarily just a Pred thing. I think what you will notice is that the overall kills per 10, or even let's just look at engagements per 10, through Major 3, 41, 46, 45, 48. Major 4, 42, 44, 45, 46, 48. So maybe not that dissimilar, but it definitely feels like as a team, they're just a bit slower than they were the previous stage. Maybe that's a bit of a confidence thing, and obviously the kills per 10 are slower or lower because they're getting slammed a lot of the time. But very much interested to your thoughts, as always, of course, in the comment section below. Just one thing to mention this weekend. These are the 4 games, of course, going on tomorrow. No OpTic until Friday because that's when the losers bracket starts, but usually these events start at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, but because it's out there in LA, they are not doing that. It starts at 3 p.m. Eastern, so it's going to be a late one in Europe, is all I'm going to say. But yeah, these are the timings. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.